Hello, my darling. That, as you can see behind me, I have the creel up. If you don't know what a creel is, it's used for drying laundry indoors. And you usually rise it up and down with a rope. Well, mine's a permanent creel and it's stuck up between two bookcases. Perfect. Make use of the space that you have, my darlings. Well, 3rd of February today. Crikey, we're running into this year, aren't we? And that brings me to today's subject. Yeah, time. Use it wisely. And this is aimed at Generation Z, my daughter's Z generation. I dropped our youngest off at the train station yesterday, and she's time management, and she's getting her dissertation sorted on bird flu in Arctic terns and how it's affecting their breeding. So, no, that's what her dissertation's on. Basically, it's bird flu. A very interesting subject. I was told her not to bring her work home. But yeah, she was talking about time management, and she's very much likes to get the work done. She likes it out the way. She likes to talk with her tutors, her professors, and she said one of the biggest problems with the people that are on her degree course, and you would think if somebody's paying nearly £10,000 a year for the privilege of getting an education, that they would be getting the work in on time. She said she said the problem that she's noticed is and she was getting quite cross about this. She said, what gives us, our generation, a bad name is procrastination. And she noticed it with a few of the people that she's on the course with, and they're putting the work off and putting the work off and finding every excuse not to do it. And she goes, and that isn't really giving her generation a good reputation, if you like. And I was listening to her, and I just thought, oh right, wow, this is fascinating, because I'm behind you as the generation. I'm pushing for you to get a good deal. And when she said that she noticed that an awful lot were just sitting there and just not doing and just waiting and waiting to be spoon fed, and no initiative was being shown to get the work out and get it done. And I was like, oh, how frustrating, because but I said to her, I know this is how it is, and I know some people put everything off to the last minute and then panic and get it wrong. I said, and some people like to plod and get the work done and get feedback and make sure it's word perfect. I said, there's all sorts of people that go through life. I said, you not one hat fits all. And she goes, yeah, but when we get through all this and then we've got to go and get the job, he says, I'm up against all these other people. And so I told her, I said, this is a very valuable piece of, advice for you. You don't have to outrun the bear that's chasing you. You just have to outrun the person that's at the side of you and let them become bear food while you're running off and getting towards your goal. You cannot help anyone who doesn't want to be helped, and you cannot make them work if they're not going to, if they don't want to. They have to want to do it themselves. And I said, if you show initiative, and as I said, you're outrunning the person next to you, you're not outrunning the bear. I said, what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a better position to get the opportunity of the job rather than the person next to you, if you see where I'm coming from. And I said, and this is what the employers are looking for. They're looking for somebody that's a self-starter, that's got initiative, that's got confidence, that's got the ability to do what the job says they can do. And this is what we're looking for. I've always said it. We're looking for the next natural leaders that are coming into the workforce. And I was explaining to her. I said, just remember, not everybody that's on your course is going to come out with a first, and not everyone's going to come out with a 2-1. I said some may come out with a 2-2. I said, you get out of life what you put into it. And if you want that good job and you want that nice position and you want to work with your animals in the chosen profession that you are looking at, then you need to put the effort in, because effort equals opportunities, which equals a good job, or at least it did do in my time. And I appreciate that things are different with the next generation that's coming up. Of course they have to be, because you're all facing different situations to what I was facing when I was starting out, when I was starting out over 20 years ago. So, naturally, you're going to be doing things differently to suit the environment that you're going into on a workforce. But when you're going into this and you're looking at your opportunities, you're looking at the competition that's all around you. And like I said, you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun the person that's next to you and let them become bear food. And you go forward and get the job. Not everybody can have that top job, and not everybody's geared up to have that top job. There's only so many leaders in this world. Not everyone can be a leader, but the ones that are supposed to be, well, they find a way to rise to the top. Ruthless ambition, confidence, initiative, self-starting. It's how the world is. You don't get a prize for coming last, so you've got to get in. And that's what I was explaining to her, because she was just despairing. And I said, look, darling, I said, you think that your generation can be a little bit lapsidaisical and lazy. I said, so's my generation. I said, there are people that I grew up with that have done nothing with their lives and sit there with their hands held out waiting for a benefit to land in. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. If that's what they chose to do with life, good on them. They've obviously, that's what they want to do with their life. I said, that's not what you want, darling. You want a nice job. You want to live in a nice area. You want nice food to eat. Well, having nice things come with nice prices, and you have to make sure that you're in the place that can get you that. And that starts with showing initiative and getting yourself out there. It really, really does. And even though you're going for this, the problem that we've got is wanting nice things. They come at nice prices. And at the moment, the youth of today, I feel really wretchedly sorry for you, because you're coming into a workforce that, quite frankly, sometimes doesn't know what it's doing and isn't paying what I would consider a fair wage. I mean, yes, we have to start somewhere, we really do. And starting on the wages that they're offering, there's a little bit of a disconnect. We need to, yes, I get that these are new starters and they can't be going in on 40, 50,000 a year. But likewise, they also can't be starting on 20,000 a year because that isn't a living wage, right? We need to be looking in the region of 28 to 30,000 as a starting wage for a professional person if they're going to stand a chance of having enough money to get themselves on the property ladder and be able to be self-supporting. It really does need to be readdressed. There's the starting wages so that they can have a chance of buying a fixer-upper and having the money to put into it to make it into a home so that they can live there and have a life. Because the problem you've got is this generation that's coming up can't get out and get started, then they're not going to be getting married and they're not going to be starting families. And if they're not doing that, then you are going to have a big drop in the birth rate. And I think it was Japan that ended up with an inverted pyramid, and they had more pensioners at the top than they did with births at the bottom, and the ones that were coming up at the bottom could not pay for all the pensioners at the top. And we're in danger of doing that in this country if the younger generation can't get on with their lives. You know, they can't buy a property and they're not going to bother dating because they can't afford to get married, and therefore there won't be any children. You see where this is going. It's a real vicious circle, isn't it? So we really need to address the starting wages in this country. And I think 28 to 30,000 for a starting wage for a graduate would be the place to go to start. And then obviously as experience is gained, then more payments can come out. And I just feel that that's what they need, if they've got to stand any chance of getting going. I mean, there are some out there that don't want to go to university, which is absolutely fine. There's not a problem with that. And they want to go out and get a trade, become a plumber or an electrician or a joiner or a wall decorator, hairdresser, anything. Whatever they want to do, they can do it. Perfect. I haven't got a problem with that. And in fact, kudos to them for having been able to be a self starter and go out and get a trade, because you'll never be out of work. I should know that. I have a trade as well. So I'm never out of work either. And the other thing I was trying to explain to her is that don't go for the negative sound bites that you're hearing about your generation. You're not a lazy generation. How can you be if you're prepared to go out there and get yourself an education? Yes, I know there's some people on your course that are leaving everything to the last minute. Leave them to it. That's how they work. Leave them alone and let them get on with it. I said, you are different, right? What works for you won't work for them. Yeah, you with me so far? And I said, so just don't, don't despair. Don't be despondent. Everybody will get where they need to be when they're supposed to get there. And I've always said that to her. And I say that to my eldest too. There's nothing more frustrating if you're beating yourself up by thinking that you're lazy, because you're not. It's just the way that you work. This is where the disconnect comes between boomers, Gen X and Gen Z, and further down the food chain, is that boomers just go, oh, you're too lazy. You're not going out and working like we did and in a job for 30 years. Well, the world of work has changed. And sometimes they don't recognise that because that's not the environment that they grew up in. They grew up in an environment where you had the same job for 30 years. In effect, because they've worked in that job for 30 years, they don't have the experience of having to sometimes stop what you're doing, restart, retrain, and go forwards again. You understand? Where I'm, yeah. And because they can't understand, because they've never experienced that, then they can't relate to that. So when they're turning around and telling this generation below them that they're lazy, no, they're not. It's just that they didn't have the same problems that this generation coming up does. And like I've always said, if a Gen Z can get a boomer to do it their way, job done, round of applause, you guys win, right? Because you've changed our viewpoint and changed our minds. And basically, what I'm saying to my darlings is, you're not lazy. They don't understand your problems that you're facing because they didn't face those type of problems. Yeah. And I always think that my generation, Gen X, is sort of the mediator between the older and the younger, because we've got the parents that are the boomers, and we've got the children, which is the Gen Z, and we're in the middle child. We've always been the middle child, haven't we? So we're like the Middle Eastern peace negotiators, stopping everybody from firing off everyone else. It's like, namaste, peace, peace, be excellent to each other. Bill and Ted's, it's their philosophy, if you like, be excellent to each other. Abraham Lincoln, a house divided by itself cannot stand. That's us. In the Western civilization, a house divided cannot stand, right? What we need is for the elder generation to take a step back sometimes and look at what's facing the younger generation. And instead of saying they're lazy, instead say to them, what are your ideas? I'm here. I want to listen to what your ideas are to deal with the situation that you find yourselves in now. What can you bring to the table that can benefit mankind moving forwards? The elder generation need to feel confident that what they've done has been enough for you guys where you are. They're going, they're going to die one day, and they're going to pass the baton on. It'll come to my generation, and I'll hold the baton for you for a while, and then I'll pass it on to you. And I hope that my generation have left the earth as with the feeling that I've done the very best I could for you. And I hope I leave the world a better place than when I entered it. And that's all the boomer generation are hoping, maybe for our generation. I know that's what I feel my generation is hoping for the next generation is, have I done enough to make sure that you're okay? And I want to feel confident enough that I'm passing the baton on to the next generation and they know what they're doing. And it's all down to communication. I know some very old people that are absolute bums and very, very lazy, and have done absolutely nothing with their lives except blame their entire situation on it's the government's fault, it's society's fault, it's the generation above me's fault. When did they sit down and say, could it have been me? Spike Milligan once said, if life's a game of cards, somebody is cheating, right? Not all of us are dealt a fairness in life, right? It's just how it is. But sometimes it's not so much of where you start off from, it's where you end up finishing. And just the elder generation needs to stop calling the younger generation lazy, and the younger generation need to stop saying to the elder generation, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Because it, it's definitely a communication issue. I just want them both to sit down, and like I said, I want the elder generation to say to the younger generation, what are your ideas moving forwards and how we're going to solve these problems that are here in front of us? It's not too much to ask. and, and and that's what I was saying to our youngest. I said, you're facing a monumental, you're living in the time of crisis, right? And whether it be the climate, the economy, jobs, your environment, health, whatever it is, there's something, there's a red flag going in each corner and it's saying help. You know, we cannot continue in the current model that we are living in. Something has to change. And it is changing, the workforce is changing because there are no longer jobs that you can have for 30 years, which the elder boomer generation have had. They've never had to work out a way to survive in a work environment that doesn't do what theirs did. Right? If they had to be transplanted now from the 30-year career that they've always had into right now, I think they'd fall over and have a heart attack. I think it would kill off a lot of them because the shock to the system would be intense. It would be absolutely horrific. They wouldn't know where to start. Even getting onto the property ladders, they were very fortunate at the time that the property prices were as stable as they were. Right now, nothing's stable. Your food prices are shooting up, your energy prices are shooting up, your house prices are shooting up. Heck, your blood pressure's probably shooting up at this point. And they've never had all of that and an unstable environment, right? Back in the day, back in the 70s, yes, we did have some extreme weather, but not at the rate that we're having it now, right? So that is a big factor. And we didn't have as many things wanting to try and kill us in the health, we've got quite a lot coming out of the woodwork, shall we say. And they didn't have as much as that as what we do now. And I'm just, if we can just get a communication thing going on, that would be brilliant. And you know what? Gen X, middle child, will sit there as the mediators. And what we do is we respect our elders and we respect the younger generation, but somehow we are always the ones that are getting yelled at. Why? Maybe it's because we have the ability to see both sides, and each side thinks that we should be on their side, when we want to be on all sides and just say, like, whoa, 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 calm down. Everything's going to be just fine. And sometimes it takes my generation to go like that and just say, I'll fix it. But I'm going to get old, and my generation is going to get old, and we're not going to be around forever. And we've taken the wisdom that the boomers have given us, the technology that's there in front of us that we've had to learn. We've not been born with it, we've had to learn it. And the two things, I'll then pass it on to the Gen Z. So the wisdom, the ability to problem fix, which is what our generation does, and the technology that Gen Z's got, you can't possibly fail, right? So be proactive, get people to listen to you, find yourself a Gen Xer that's gonna lift you up and protect you. Because, yeah, we're massive protectors. Boomers tended with us is their attitude was out the door, see what the world's got to offer, right? Well, we've seen what the world's got to offer, and it can be a bit of a scary place, which is why we tend to be a little bit more nurturing to the generation that's below. We haven't made them namby-pambies and we haven't made them babies, but what we have done is stop them getting the butt hurt that we've had. Yeah, it's not been easy being Gen X. And I would like to say we're a bit more nurturing and a bit more loving, because that's the two things that we're missing from our parents towards us. So I'd like to think that we passed it on to Gen Z, definitely. Because we're not helicopter parents and we're not trying to run your lives, no. But we are trying to assist you to make sure that you get the very best opportunities. And we're passing the baton on to you, my darlings. So don't let us down. You know, we're fighting for you. We're rooting for Gen Z. We're saying, come on, we know you can do this. You're our babies. You can make it. I know Grandma and Grandpa can be a bit surly, boomers. But that's because they haven't had to live what you've had to live through. And even though I've got the boomers going, ah, and I got the Gen Z going, ah, and we're going, ow, 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 because we're stuck in the middle of it all. So, communication, everyone. Everybody chill, everybody calm down, and everybody sit down and actually talk to each other instead of shouting. Talking gets your point across, remaining calm gets your point across. Honestly, sometimes it feels as though that can't happen. Well, that's when you're going to have time out. And believe me, there's nothing more satisfying than turning around to a boomer that's lost it with a Gen Z and saying, right, you're going to go and sit on the naughty step. And how many years have you been on the planet? 70, right? It's a minute for every year of your life. So you've got to sit on that naughty step for 70 minutes. You go back, you'll find they've nodded off. And that way then, at least Gen Z can go around and get what they need to get done. I hope this has been a bit of a laugh for you. And just remember, you know, it ain't a rehearsal. You get one shot at this being on the planet, unless, of course, you're into Buddhism, in which case you probably get reincarnated as a bumblebee or a carpenter ant or something wonderful. You know, a little animal. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? But yes, to all those that aren't Buddhists, this is your one shot. This is not a rehearsal. You need to treat it as the real deal. Okay? Chill, relax. Gen Z, Gen X has got your back. You might not believe it, but we do. Now, if you like what I do, you can give me a thumbs up. And if you really like what I do, you can always give me a follow and come back whenever and find out whatever. Sometimes I do books, and sometimes I do this. Take care, my darlings. And happy readings and enjoy. If you got a really good book, let me know what it is. You never know, I might want to read it. See you later.